Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Runnin Scuffs. I am your host, Justin. Oh, no! I'm Zachary Bell. As you probably, if some of you saw our little technical glitch earlier, Justin is not here. He has a lot going on in his personal life, and we are, of course, sending thoughts, prayers, and good vibes. So Justin left me to step in and host. So if this is terrible, obviously it's Justin's fault for not being here. If this is the best episode of Runnin Scuffs, it's because I'm in charge, but I am not alone. Thankfully, of course, I am joined by a wonderful co-pilot here and our good friend, Dan the Man Foster. Dan, how are you?
I'm good, bud. What's going on? How's Texas treating you?
Texas is the place I always want to be, right?
That's right.
Every time George Strait
sees...
That's right, Ryan. Listen here. Let me see. There we go. Oh, no. Producer error, everybody. Listen, Justin makes this look so seamless. So I'll probably stop giving him mess about it. But anyways, Dan, let's go ahead and dive into some Auto Club action, huh? How do you feel about that, Dan?
I'm good. It was a good weekend for racing. Well, Sunday was a good day for racing. Saturday it was a little wet, a little snowy, but hey, every day can't be sunshine.
Right. Sunshiny California, right? But I will say kudos to NASCAR and the track people at Auto Club. I know a lot of drivers are worried about weepers, which is basically a racetrack crying out water at Holtz, right? But kudos to the track prep crew for being able to have that track as ready and race ready as possible. And it didn't seem like anybody had any issues with that, right? I didn't hear anything really.
No, I mean, honestly, most of the drivers were actually praising how well it did for the amount of rain that they got this past week and even Saturday. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Reddick, particularly, that I saw that was commending them and how well it was for them to be able to drive both races because he did the Xfinity race as well.
That's right. Reddick, a less than ideal weekend. I mean, for a California kid especially, I don't think that's the way he wants to leave the 2 mile track and everything. But he had a dominant performance in 2021 and in a certain car that also showed up in 2022. But we will talk about that in a minute. Dan, are you ready to go ahead and get into some of our Scuff stories?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Let's see. All right. So our first Scuff story is NASCAR sells off most of the land around Auto Club, leaving only 89 acres to remain for the racetrack. Dan, do you have any thoughts on what this means for the short track overall?
I mean, at this point, they're committed. I was hoping they were a little hesitant and wouldn't just kind of go ahead and jump both feet in. But I feel like this is them showing they're committed to doing this, making this short track in California. I enjoy short track racing, but after the races this past Sunday, I don't know if I can argue that this was a good move long term. We'll see. But I mean, I could have thought of a couple other tracks I would have turned into a short track before Auto Club, but
I mean, it's a done
deal.
I'll say this, right? They're kind of they're within, like, I think probably 2 or 3 years of the end of the line of the surface, right?
Yeah.
It was going to be due for a repave anyways, and I mean, even if they keep it as is this flat 2 mile oval, it's not going to produce great racing early on in the repave. Most repaves don't. Circa, like, literally almost any repave that's like 2,000 pretty much. So I get it. I'm honestly really quite concerned that they might just sell off the rest of these 89 acres. Like they're trying to, like, NASCAR's been dragging their feet on it. They said 2020 was the last race on the oval. And then 2021, we obviously didn't go with California's restrictions and pandemic concerns. In 2022, it was supposed to be the last one. Now in 2023, definitively, this is the last one on the 2 mile oval, no matter what happens to the future of Auto Club. simply because there is no other like plan, right? Like part of the racetrack already got sold, so.
Yeah, and I know they're gonna like part of the agreement to sell. They're gonna lease some of that property back for parking for the upcoming races. Once the reconfiguration, the repave, whatever you want to call it's done. Um, how much is what's left of that 89 acres are they going to continue to keep? Are they going to also possibly try to do a lease program with that as far as to lease for parking or what for future races? I don't know. I mean, I feel at this point it's pretty much a done deal. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that. There, Zach, my buddy Zach. But I just, unfortunately, they've already made that decision. It's kind of a mute point at this point. But I like you said, I don't know what they're going to do with the other 89 acres. Are they going to keep all? I mean, they don't need 89 acres for a 2/3 mile track. I think is what they're going to end up making it. Like,
yeah,
how much land do you actually need for a 2/3 track? I feel like on the piece of property I have here, which is nowhere near 10 acres, I feel like I could do a 2/3 track.
Yeah, I don't think anything's. I think it's about the facility around the track that's going to take up more of the 89 acres than the actual track itself, right? And everything. But I imagine that they could easily get the track in if they wanted to, and they could even lease parking and sell it and everything, to make extra to make ends meet for parking and have a good situation. But I will say, I mean, they got offered like $544 million or something. That's not an offer that NASCAR can just take away, right? And
Yeah.
Ryan's making a good point here. The new car made the race better. It's back-to-back years of excellent racing, right? I mean, I know that when we got to our Scuffy Awards, right, Auto Club was not really, I don't believe, was an option, but it really should have been. It was a fantastic race last year, and it was a tone setter for the next gen car, and really, I think, it's funny, right? NASCAR wants to, as a series, have great short track and road course racing and super speedway racing right now, and their best product is on the intermediate tracks most weekends.
Yeah.
And this is the exact issue they had with the last package, which it was terrible intermediates, but it was great on the short tracks and good road course racing and great super speedway racing out of the Gen 6 car. So, this is typical NASCAR, right? Just like NASCAR only goes to California 3 times a year, and one of the times, of course, it's going to snow, right?
Yeah.
Or NASCAR, tries to build a car for a sport that's being more and more centered around road courses and short tracks. And what is it, the best intermediate car maybe we've ever had? So go figure for NASCAR,
Yeah.
The cars zig and zag in the opposite direction of the sport, and it just tugs the fan base in entirely different directions, which is why the sport, I think, has such a hard time with its identity at times. But anyways, another little segment that popped up here. John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nema Truck is back, everybody. Returning to the truck series for Tricon Garage. He's going to drive the number 17 at Las Vegas and Atlanta. Taylor Gray has not turned 18 yet, so he does have a waiver if he can make the playoffs, but he is not in yet. And not to mention that John Hunter Nemechek, or Nema Truck, going to be facing the boss man twice this weekend, the former boss man, Kyle Busch, pulling triple duty at Las Vegas. Pretty typical business for Rowdy here, coming off a fantastic weekend at Auto Club, Fontana, whatever you want to call it. Dan, what do you think about John Hunter going back down, running a couple extra truck races, and Kyle Busch trying to go for his patented weekend sweep?
I've always been a fan. Well, first I was a fan of Joe Nemechek, John Hunter's dad. I was always a fan of him. He's from the state of Florida, so any Florida person, anytime they're in a race, I always try to root for them. Even Eric Almirola, even though he drives a Ford, but hey, but no, I'm excited to see him step back down to the truck series. He's always done a great job in a competitive truck, and I feel like Tricon they're kind of like the headliner for the Toyota camp now. I feel like that's going to be what that team is, and he's going to be the kind of the headline and the top team for Toyota this weekend. He has great experience at the track. He's run Xfinity there before, Cup as well. So I mean, there's been plenty of opportunities there for him as far as to kind of get his feel of the track itself. So I'm eager to see that. Honestly, I did not like Kyle Busch when he first really hit the Cup Series. I was never really a fan of him. I don't know why, but I just was never a fan. But now it's like the past couple years I've kind of mellowed out with him. Maybe it's the social media presence that he has with him and his wife. But I feel like it is exciting now for me to watch Kyle Busch, and it's almost, I guess, more of a realization of when you get to see greatness in front of you and realize how great that person or that talent really is. And so I'm always excited to see Kyle Busch on track, whether it's Xfinity, Truck, or Cup. I kind of do wish he would have kept with the whole once I get to the 100 wins in Xfinity, I'll retire. But at the same time, it's like, man, if that's what you're born to do, that's what you want to do. Like, you want to go out and race a car, and I can't fault the man for that. So I do see him winning 2 of the 3 races, but I don't see him winning Xfinity personally.
Wow. Excuse me. I'm sorry, y'all. I will say I don't think he would have run this Xfinity car this weekend if not for the issues with the Colic 10. That's what he's driving, right? The same car that Austin Dillon drove last weekend. You know, if Gold Landon Castle had the funding and locked up that 10 car, then we wouldn't be talking about this, I don't think.
Agreed.
I think this is Kyle Busch doing Chevrolet and doing the RCR satellite, team, like a bonus, right? As for John Hunter, I'm really excited to see him in the Tricon truck. You said it, like, Tricon's kind of the face of Toyota now, but like with ThorSport not really being there anymore. I mean, it's really just Hattori, Hallmar, and Tricon now, right? And it's going to be like a really good benchmark to see someone like John Hunter in the Tricon trucks as to like how good they actually are. Because we know John Hunter's great, right? I mean, he was fantastic at KBM and everything. So I would imagine that John Hunter is a good benchmark here for their program and can honestly give us some good insight into expectations for Corey Heim this year.
Yeah,
because I have a lot of questions with Toyota as a whole, because David Gilliland was the premier Ford team last year, and that's what Tricon Garage is, right? And it's irrelevant, right? They were largely irrelevant most of last season, didn't make the playoffs, So I'd imagine that John Hunter is a good benchmark. As for Kyle Busch, I've said it before on the show, I'm always a proponent of Kyle Busch running lower series races. If they want him there, then he should be there. If they don't want him there, then he shouldn't be there. If the drivers want it, then I really don't care. I mean, here's the thing: if Kyle Busch is gonna come and stink up the joint and make a bad TV product, that's fine, right? Like, I'll sacrifice a bad Xfinity race for some good driver development to pay off in the long run, and that's what this is. Everybody learns from Kyle Busch, and when someone slays the beast, whether it be in the truck or the Xfinity series or whatever, Kyle Busch rises to the occasion, right? Or that driver seems to be rising to the occasion, and it's almost like they've won twice, right? Yeah. They won the race, and they beat the big bag monster in Kyle Busch, and
I think this weekend kind of even showed the swing towards Kyle Busch. Yeah, Zach's a Chevy fan, I know that. But I mean, when he won on Sunday, you didn't hear boos. You didn't hear people like chanting anything like negative. It was cheers. It was support. I feel like last season really changed a lot of people's opinion of Kyle Busch. I think a lot of people, myself included, thought he was an obnoxious little brat back in the day, a little whiny baby sometimes. But I think last year, especially the struggles that him and his wife have had with trying to have another kid, which now they have their little baby girl. I think that kind of it opened up thought of humanity with him. Like you kind of just thought he was this person you see on TV, this figure that's not a real person. So you kind of just grew to dislike him, almost like a wrestling persona. But in reality, like he's human. His wife's human. His kid, it's a little kid. You don't want to really have too many negative thoughts about it. So I feel like overall, last season really kind of changed the tide of how people look at him.
Yeah, I really think I've been a fan of Kyle Busch from the start, pretty much for him. My dad was a Kurt Busch fan, and so I grew up a fan of Kurt and Kyle Busch, and then I've always kind of liked the edgy nature, right? I've always been someone who, in general, wants to be a fan of the teams and the drivers that no one's really, quite frankly, a fan of. And honestly, the guys that they dislike is even better. So Kyle's always had my respect in that nature, and he's wonderful, right? And Ryan, we should just show his comment. Like, winning less helps, but like, this sport has changed for the better because of Kyle Busch, right? Like, he is like Dale Jr. in that he's invested in the sport in so many ways, just like Denny Hamlin, right? These three are what I would consider to be, and Justin Marks is in this conversation, right? The banner holders for the sport in the future. Oh, yeah. You've got one of the Truck Series in Kyle Busch. You've got one in the Xfinity Series in Dale Jr. You got two in the Cup Series in Marks and Hamlin, and Brad Keselowski's there. I am someone who is thrilled to see driver owners, and I loved Carl Edwards, right? Like, you can see the thing behind me, but Carl Edwards, retired and disappeared,
vanished.
And we find out he's running for political office in Missouri, but we know where Kyle Busch is going to be when he retires and hangs it up. We know where Denny Hamlin's going to be. He'll be right here at the track, around the sport.
He's already got a contract for Brexton to run for Childress later on in life.
Right, so, exactly.
He's going to be at the track, whether it's working on the team or cheering for his son. He'll be there.
Yeah, owning it, driving, whatever. Probably both, somewhat. But let's go ahead and get into a little race review officially, Dan. We've danced around it a little bit, but let's go ahead and dive in. Play the neat little graphic here. There we go. Anyways, so I want to go ahead and start by talking about the Xfinity Series race first. Oh, no, I did it twice. I thought by clicking hide, it would go, okay. Now Dan's beautiful face is back. Don't tell Justin. Anyways, so I want to go ahead and dive into the Xfinity Series race first, even though it technically came second. First off, shouts out to you, Dan, and all the Florida natives. John Hunter put the Nemechek bow tie, if you will, on Auto Club. Of course, Joe, his father, won the first pole at Auto Club, and the last lap ran on the 2-mile oval was completed by a Nemechek. John Hunter won the Xfinity Series race for Joe Gibbs Racing. Dan, let's go ahead and talk about John Hunter first, and then we'll dive into some of the other players afterwards.
What can't we say about the guy? He had a great race all day long. Those last couple of restarts, he proved that he was able to, maintain that aggressiveness. I don't feel like at the beginning of the race he had the car to beat. I feel like him and the crew chief and the team worked on that car a little bit throughout the first stage and into the second stage. But once the second stage hit, I feel like it was pretty much going to be either him or Sammy Smith. Unfortunately, Sammy Smith did have a little bit of an incident and kind of got spun around a little bit there towards the end of the race. So he had to go to the back of the pack for a restart. But, Nemechek was to me, in my opinion, the class of the field from the middle of stage 2 all the way to the finish of the race.
Yeah, and Fox is really trying their best to sell it as to not the JGR show. But Joe Gibbs has really, quite frankly, since Tony Stewart won there in 2008 in the Xfinity Series, has dominated this track at this level. Harrison Burton got his first Xfinity Series win here. So it's not surprising to see that John Hunter jumps into victory lane here at all, I don't think. and that Sammy Smith was fantastic, and even like Joe Graff. I mean, never was really in the top 10 unless it was a pit cycle, but was not a mess.
Yeah.
So kudos to Joe Graff, right? He's Riley Herbst is Riley Herbst to me. But I will say, Fox is really trying to sell the Justin Allgaier and JRM cars, and they were good. They were very good. They weren't that good in comparison. And then Cole Custer, I thought was another class of the field driver. But really, it seemed like after winning stage 2, he had a bad pit stop and was kind of on the outside of the top 10 and really couldn't get it going forward too much. And then had the accident with Austin Dillon, and that was that, right? Like,
yeah, I feel like once he got back in the pack, I don't know if his car didn't handle right or what, but it just once he wasn't out in clean air, he really couldn't move forward very well.
I have to assume it's because he lost the lead, but also like the way that John Hunter and Sammy Smith were able to dominate the stage 3 of this race and kind of run away with it, makes me believe that even if Cole Custer had been up front, I don't think he would have won.
No, yeah, right? No. I think the best car driver won for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they were pulling moves with each other. I think Justin Allgaier was there as well. I mean, they were racy, all 3 of those cars, and I mean they're just left and right. I mean, it kind of made me think of Talladega Nights with the slingshot and gauge and just whip around each other on the bottom.
Whipping around each other, taking all that debris off.
I mean, it was great racing. Yeah, I mean, and that was one thing. The track was really dirty. Like, I feel like that's not something we're used to at Auto Club, but there was a lot of debris.
But I have to imagine it's because they just had the Cup race, and so some people probably went home, so they really didn't have time to clean it. And it's cold, and it's probably windy out there. Of course, the cars are generating like a breeze around, the bottom part of the seating bowl and stuff. So I have to imagine it's that. I don't think it was like a typical issue. But yeah. So let's go ahead and dive into the Cup Series race. This one, Dan, I tell you what, like a wonderful ex-girlfriend, they're always going to make us Miss Fontana, or ex-boyfriend for you, Dan. But they're going to make us Miss Fontana oh so dearly. And a great race. I don't even know how else to describe it, right?
No, I mean, from start to finish, it was definitely entertaining. I know usually there'll be like a little lull somewhere along the middle of the race. Oh, I don't know about that, Papa Bell. I don't know about that.
He put this comment earlier, but it was after we just stopped discussing Scott Bush, so I was ready to put this one out here for all
I definitely agree with the admiration and respect. I don't think he'll get that just because he's not an Earnhardt, and that's just how the fans are in general, unfortunately. But okay, I could see him getting more wins than Junior. I'll give you that. Okay,
I don't know, man. Junior won like 20 races in the 8 car. He didn't win a lot in the 88.
He didn't win a lot in the 88. No. But I mean, I think Kyle Busch has still got a few years left. I think with this race this weekend, I mean, I feel like he definitely showed that he's going to be a contender all season. That his driving didn't fall off. That it was more of just I feel like it was more of a situation of circumstance. But no, I think it was a great race. I did not have Kyle Busch winning this race in stage 1. He was not somebody that I'd picked for any of my fantasy league stuff. But it was exciting. It was fun. I was impressed with Trackhouse having both of their cars up front for a good bit. Both of the Legacy Motorsports or Motor Club cars were up in the top 10, 15 for a bit.
I don't know if he was that good, Ryan.
I don't think he was, bud. I don't even think he was the best Penske car in the race.
He might have been the best Penske car in the race.
I don't know. I feel like Blaney and Cindric might have had a little better car to begin with, but that's just me. But no, it was a good race. What was your thoughts on it, Zach?
Oh man, like I said, fantastic race. Like here's the thing. I was never really a big proponent of Fontana, and I've had as a Denny Hamlin fan, a very mixed and tangled history with this racetrack, right? I'll never forget when Joey Logano wrecked Denny Hamlin and broke his back. Refraining from saying something inappropriate on the air, but you know, it is what it is, right? But it was a great race. You know, this is a really bad weekend for the narratives of my preseason predictions, right? RCR did in fact win a race, and one of them did indeed make the playoffs. And Trackhouse looked very good, very, very good. There are about 5 or 6 guys that look like they could have won this race, maybe 7 guys at various points. Okay, right? And definitely one of the 7 guys won, that's for sure. I don't know, man. The more that, like, gets revealed about this Kyle Busch JGR situation, like, the muddier and muddier it gets. Like, the more and more neutral I feel about it in a way, you know, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Joe didn't want him there. The more I hear about it, the more I'm like, Joe did want him there. But it just seemed like the relationship had run its course, and the efforts, no matter how strong they were on either side to make it work, just weren't enough, you know?
Yeah.
And that's okay sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like amicably as they could is basically what happened.
Right.
They were both still cordial with each other. I don't think there's a ton of hard feelings.
I don't think so either. It came across very tense on the show, the race whatever race. No, the USA Network show that they did.
Oh yeah.
Race for the championship or whatever.
Yeah.
They came across very dramatic there, and I guess, you know, as we were living through it last year, very dramatic. But really, like, I just think this was, you know, a guy in Kyle Busch who asked for too much money, and that wasn't obtainable without like a big sponsor like Mars. You know, and I know Denny Hamlin said that on his podcast. It's they wanted him back. Like, there's no doubt that they wanted Kyle Busch to stay on that team, but it just ended up not happening, and it is what it is, right? But let's talk about the guy who won stage 1 and stage 2, the Watermelon King himself, Ross Chastain. Yeah, we know how I feel about Ross Chastain. It's okay, but
I don't have a favorite driver, but if I did, it's that guy.
I do have a favorite driver, and it's the opposite of that guy. But
he's got to have 2 number 1s.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin's so good he's got to have 2. Yeah, exactly. All the wins, right? But I try to take Ross Chastain as unbiased of a view as I can, and dang it, he looked really good out there today. Seemed to be picking up right where he left off last season. You know, maybe even better than last season. Right, he had a really rough start to the year last year, picking up where they left off in the championship round. A great day. Second place or third place, won both stages. What do you think about him, Dan? How do you feel about Trackhouse as a whole with Suarez in 4th?
I mean, I feel like it was a great day. I mean, they both, like you said, Chastain won both stage 1 and 2. Suarez was top 5 or 6 in both stages. I know
a pit road speeding penalty.
I know he's in top 10 for both stages. He did get a pit road penalty.
So did Kyle Busch, by the way, too.
Yeah,
maybe that was the winning formula, right? Like, maybe if Denny Hamlin had reverted back to his old ways and sped on pit road, maybe he would have won the race.
I mean, I know there was a couple penalties on pit road for speeding, both exiting and entering. Somebody had a tire come off. I don't remember who that was off the top of my head, who had a tire come off on the backstretch. But I mean, there was some definitely pit road penalties, but yeah, I mean, Trackhouse as a whole, I feel like Justin Marks is not going to let this team take a step back. I feel like he's too into this. He's too in tune with the sport, and I feel like he's just going to push this team. I feel like it'll probably be a 3-car team the next 2 years, if not 4. I don't see him just holding pace at 2 cars. I see him building it quick. Maybe buying out another owner. I don't know. But I mean, there was a lot of cars that I didn't expect to see up front this early in the season. Obviously, with Stenhouse winning at Daytona, that was a bit of a shocker. But I mean, just in the top 10 finishers, I mean, really Suarez and Chastain were the only finishers besides Brad Keselowski. I mean, and he was up front for a good part of the race too. I think he finished second in stage 2, and was competitive for a good part of the race as well. Like I said earlier, both legacy MC cars were up front. Trackhouse guys work well together and look good, but I think they're quite at the level of RCR and the boys at Hendrick yet. I could agree with that, Zach. I do think that RCR and Hendrick, maybe not RCR as much as Hendrick. Hendrick works really well together. It's like a well-oiled machine over there. You really can't get a link out of place over there. But RCR with Kyle Busch coming in new, I know him and Austin Dillon do get along well, but I don't know if they're going to work as well right away. I mean, obviously so far it looks like it, but I was really surprised, I guess, overall with Team Chevy. I mean, really didn't have a car that didn't have a good finish other than Fastlane, which that BJ McLeod rarely finishes top 25 anyways. But no, I mean, Colleague was racy with AJ Allmendinger. Like I said, Legacy Motor Club, pretty much all the Chevy teams at one point in time were in the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll shout out Denny Hamlin. I mean, obviously I have to, but I mean, really, like, he's seen leaps and bounds ahead of the other Toyotas, which is a bit of a red flag for the other Toyotas. But Denny Hamlin said on his podcast, if I'm not the best Toyota 10 out of 36 races of the year, then I'm not meeting my personal standards, no matter how good the equipment is. And so here's a Sunday where Denny Hamlin went out and just beat his teammates flat out. He was the best one there, and really he should have been a top 5 car. He had gotten into the wall, I think, like 3 or 4 times in the final, like 5 laps of the race. I mean, I was on board with him, watching him try to race with Harvick and Suarez and Keselowski, and man. There is one other driver I want to shout out. It's Corey LaJoie. He had a top 15 day all day yesterday. A fantastic job for the old Spire Motorsports. You know, this might have been like the best overall race day in Spire Motorsports history. I know
outside
they won
of Super Speedway for sure. Yeah,
I know that they won that race in 2019. That was rain shortened, but really, like, that was Kurt Busch's race to lose, and he choked it away with that pit call.
I was at that race, by the way.
Yeah, and you know exactly what I'm talking. Yeah,
exactly what I'm talking about.
And then, I mean, fantastic at Atlanta last year in the fall, of course, but in the summer. But I mean, really, like, for like a true racetrack on a true race day, this only rivals Corey LaJoie's runs at Darlington and Bristol in his career. So maybe that's a sign that Corey really is pretty good, because he runs well on old, worn out equipment. But I just wanted to shout out Spire real quick before we move on.
There were one of the other Cup drivers. I don't remember who it was. I feel like it was one of the younger guys, Elliott, Blaney, one of those guys. I don't remember off the top of my head who exactly it was, but they were talking about just, you know, what this actually shows of Corey LaJoie and how he's able to get the best out of his equipment every week, but it just because the equipment's not up to par with Hendrick and Toyota and everybody else, that, you know, he's doing what he can. But this race specifically really showed his talent and his ability to really, you know, compete at a higher level.
I think it was Denny Hamlin who said that, because he just talked about, I don't know if you listened to Denny Hamlin's podcast or not, but he was talking about it. Maybe it's somebody else then, but yeah, always mad respect for Corey LaJoie. You know, Zach said it here, but we were saying my own name. But anyway, so Denny Hamlin was saying, you know, here's the thing: Corey matches whatever the team's asking him to do for that car for that weekend. If it's a hold it back, don't wreck it, you know, and don't be last, then Corey will come home 27th.
We're going home in one piece. That's the main thing.
Yep. But sometimes it's, hey man, win or die trying, and he wins or dies trying, like he did at Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Corey, like I said, really answers the bell to whatever Spire is asking of him quite nicely. But with that being said, Dan, I hear a certain bell ringing off in the distance here.
Oh man. For
And
those
it
who don't
is
know, you can go to runningonscuff.com to see all of the finishing results from the weekend as well, from Auto Club Speedway. So if you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to do so. But sorry,
yes.
Go ahead, continue.
No, I forgot to. I'm a terrible host of the show. This
good.
is why Justin does the hosting and I just do the commentary. But it is time to get scuffed up, folks. Dan looks scared.
This is my first real scuffed up opportunity, sir.
I know.
And we don't have an actual judge on air with us, so we're just gonna have to go by votes. And I know you have Ryan on your side and Papa Bell on your side. Hopefully, I get Zach
Papa Bell is probably
side.
easily swayed.
We will, but we'll see how this goes.
We're gonna leave this right here in the middle of. Actually, we're gonna say this first, but sorry, graphics are not my thing, man. But, anyways, so today's topic. This is a driver we've talked about a lot, and he's been in Scuffed Up before, but it's kind of on brand for this guy to be in Scuffed Up. It is. Does Kyle Busch make RCR a championship competitor? Like championship threat, Dan. With that being said, I will be the gentleman, and I will let you go first.
All right, sir.
And I will go ahead and put you on the clock for 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I think that yes, Kyle Busch joining RCR makes this team even more of a championship contender. Obviously, both cars last year, the 3 and the 8, both made the playoffs with wins. Are they perennial favorites? No, but I do think that they were capable of a deep playoff run, top 8, possibly a top 4 if they got lucky. But I think adding Kyle Busch to the team, not just as a driver, he brings so much more than just his driving skill and talent. The man is a motivator. He makes everyone want to do better than what they already are and push themselves to improve every week. I mean, the 8 car, yes, Tyler Reddick had a couple wins in it last year. He's a great driver. He's talented. But Kyle Busch is a whole nother. He's in the competition, the conversation for GOAT. He is not just a subpar or above average driver. No, he is one of the greatest, if not the most talented driver to step foot in a NASCAR race car. I personally think that Kyle Busch will win at least one championship before he retires with RCR. Will it be this year? I don't know, but I definitely think day one when he stepped foot in that shop and started working with the team, he elevated that team to make it even more competitive than what it already was. Austin Dillon's already running better than he did last year. Granted, it's only the second race of the season, so we have a lot to see. But I do feel long run, yes, this makes them even more of a championship contender. I yield the rest of my time. Zach, what say you?
Dan, I'll say it was a fair. You got made some valid points here, but before I boot you off the screen, I leave you this question to think about for your rebuttal. Okay. What is a championship contender? Like how? Like define championship contender. Okay, right. And say bye to all your adoring fans. But I answer this question with something nice and simple, folks. A championship contender has to be a round of 8 appearance. Okay. There is no doubt in my mind Kyle Busch is a fringe round of 8 driver right now. I mean, I know he's good, but the equipment, man, like, it's good, but it's not great, right? He's been over, Hendrick Motorsports is obviously at the top of the Chevrolet totem pole. So and at best, the 5th best car every week. Those Trackhouse boys look mighty competitive on Sunday, so he's fighting for somewhere between 5th and 8th best car. Maybe you can bump him up to like 3rd. I mean, Elliott looked really strong at the end on Sunday. Kyle Larson, if he didn't have the engine issues early on, I think would have been a major player here at the end of this race. But nevertheless, Kyle Busch, I mean, he did. He is a threat in that he will make the playoffs, and he will not be an easy out like he was last year. But I will say, I don't think he makes them like I don't know how much he elevates them than Tyler Reddick did. I don't see this team making the championship four. And you can talk me into a champion like a round of 8 appearance, but like I don't see them being like a very competitive round of 8 guy. So I don't really think that's a championship contender. Like if you go into Martinsville in a must-win situation, to me, you are not a championship contender in its true form. Like that's Chase Briscoe last year, right? Like Chase Briscoe was, by definition, a championship contender, but he was not able to make it on points really at all. So that is someone who I would say is not a championship contender. But let's see, we have a comment here. All right, Dan, I'm just going to add you back now, so we can go ahead and finish up this rebuttal here, Dan.
To your question, I feel like a legit championship contender, especially in the current format, you have to have consistent stage wins. Maybe not. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that, sir. That agreeance there. But I feel like you have to have consistent stage, maybe not wins, but at least be like top 5 in most of the stages throughout the season. Multiple wins. I feel like minimum of 3 really kind of sets you as a true contender for the championship. Do I think Kyle Busch can do that? Absolutely. Do I think RCR has the ability? They haven't really shown it much, but they haven't had a driver of Kyle Busch's caliber. Like Austin Dillon, yes, he'll win races, but he's Pop-Pop's grandson. That's the only reason he's really in that car. If Pop-Pop didn't own the team, Austin probably would have been gone a couple seasons ago. That's just the facts, in my opinion. So if you had Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick, oh, absolutely, this would have been championship contender from day one. But I do think Austin Dillon brings enough competitiveness and enough information as far as to be able to talk and improve the cars that, yes, Kyle Busch will be a championship contender. Not sure if it's going to be championship 4. I feel like, yes, it can make it, but definitely I think he's going to make it to the round of 8.
Yeah. I'll raise this other question, this red flag here, and we will let the viewers comment on who won, and we'll calculate it, maybe 24 hours after the stream ends. We have our people who listen to the podcast and stuff later on, which, by the way, you should absolutely listen to us twice. We're available everywhere.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, as well as all of your audio podcast places: Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Samsung Podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. The list goes on. You can find us anywhere and everywhere. We're like Visa.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's the thing. He's looked great at the Clash, right? He was in the old format, pre-green white checkered format, Daytona 500 champion, and he obviously won this weekend. My concern, Dan, is these are 3 tracks that are not really relevant to the championship story. I mean, to sure Talladega shows up at the playoffs. Obviously, there's nothing like the Coliseum, right? And really, there's nothing like Auto Club. I mean, Michigan is a 2-mile track, but it is not a worn-out, bumpy surface. And the only worn-out, bumpy surfaces left are Homestead and Darlington, really, right? But yeah. Darlington is like a 2-lane track at most, right? So it doesn't offer nearly the variations in lane that Auto Club does. And Homestead, while being multi-laned, I mean, that's probably the best comparison you're going to get. But it is significantly higher banked in the corners and everything. So, and really, like, Homestead's more about rocking the top, and Auto Club's more about options. But I don't see like these tracks as like translatable performances to a championship run, you know? Not to say it can't happen or it won't happen, right? But I mean, like I said, folks, I mean, like to me, this really like really depends on like your definition of championship contender, right? And I think a lot of it is comes down to like how competitive are you in the playoffs, and where your wins come from. Like where are they at, and what do they tell about your season? Like if Ricky Stenhouse went out and won the Spring Talladega race, right? I don't think any of us are walking away like, oh, Ricky Stenhouse is a championship threat, you know? Really, right? I mean, no. So it really is about like who you are and where you win at that matters, you know. And every year, you know, you can come up with a different narrative or reason why someone can win. But I rest my case, and that he does not make them an immediate contender because while he elevates RCR, he does not meet my personal definition of a championship contender yet. He can have fun finishing 10th place in points. But Dan, it is time to get into our race preview. We've got a fantastic weekend in Las Vegas coming up. You know, lots of cheesy gambling puns from everybody over at Fox, right? Why is this not working?
It won't be a crapshoot.
Kudos to Justin. I know. No, it won't be a crapshoot, but
that's why I don't host.
Well, I've never hosted before either, besides Dipstick Space, but we didn't really do the whole graphic thing very much. We actually, you know, of course, we have graphics made by Peyton, some made by Peyton Lore, some made by Justin. So, you know, if you got them, use them, right? Justin and I didn't have them before, but here we go. Race preview. Before we, excuse me, before we get too far into race preview, Hot Mess Express. There we go. Sorry. Anyways, before we get too far into the race preview, I do want to shout out DAF stats. They'll be up later on this week on the website, www.runninonscuffs.com. You should check that out, right? Obviously, Mike Daffner's not here with us either. Still in the middle of his move. But Dan, our fantasy league too, right? I mean, we're in a bunch, me and you personally. We are both Florida men. I'm a Florida man by choice. You're a Florida man by
birth.
Force.
Yeah. By force. But no, so for those who have not joined yet, I know Zach Williams in the comments, he's joined. I'm not sure if Ryan's in it or not, but we do have a fantasy league on NASCAR Fantasy Live. Look up Running on Scuffs, spelled just like that right there. If not, there's also links in my Facebook, my Twitter. If you can't find it, message me. I'll send it to you. Last week's winner was Jordan Vlach, I believe is his name, who's also an affiliate for Florida Man in our other league there, Zach. But yeah, congratulations, Jordan. He's also the current points leader for the season because it is a season-long competition. But if you haven't joined, go ahead and join. It's a little bit different than most fantasy leagues. You pick 6 drivers total. You keep one in the garage. You can switch them up to the end of stage 2. Thankfully, I had Kyle Larson, and I switched him out before stage 2, so I didn't get those terrible points of his. So I did have a decent week overall, but did not beat Jordan Vlach.
It is what it is, Dan. So I can tell you in that league, I did have Kyle Larson, and I had to play Kyle Larson because I also chose Christopher Bell.
Oof.
Zach is not having a great year in fantasy, but that's why I live in the reality, right?
That's right.
But let's go ahead and dive into these picks. Dan, we don't know who won the debate, so we can't really go that way first. You've already mentioned 2 of your 3 picks, if I remember hearing correctly. So why don't you go ahead and give us your picks? Since it's just me and you, if you'd like to go into some detail on your picks, feel free to go off, King.
Personally, you can't go against the hometown favorite. So Kyle Busch, I got it. Plus, I mean, come on, Kyle Busch and trucks, it's a no-brainer. You can't pick against the king of the truck series, in my opinion. Xfinity, I don't think he's going to get it done. I think he will have a great race. I just don't think colleague racing is capable of winning every week in and week out. I think they're great at super speedways. They've shown that their teamwork, although the past couple seasons hasn't gone as well. But I feel personally, Xfinity, it's going to go to a JRM car. If I had to pick, Josh Berry, he seems to have figured out this Xfinity car pretty quickly. I know he's an old man for a inexperienced Xfinity driver, but I think he's going to definitely have a leg up on the competition there. I just feel like overall that's a track that really fits his style and his ability. And then in Cup, again, you can't go against the hometown favorite, especially. Ryan's comment. Well, I'm not going to agree with you in Cup. Sorry there, Ryan. But in Cup Series, I got Kyle Busch again going back to back. Not quite sweeping the weekend with not winning Xfinity, but hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
You know what? I'll go ahead and give my picks now, and I actually think Kyle Busch shoots the over this weekend. I am, yeah, man. Be all the shocked you want to be, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that one. I have a weird feeling here about this one. I'm gonna go ahead and take Grant Enfinger to win the Truck Series race. He's usually done quite solid. He had that race for like CR9 Motorsports a couple years ago, back like in 2021. When what's his face, the CEO of Marcus Lemonis, was throwing money to everybody, like lowball money, but everybody turned Camping World schemes, and so they all did in the Truck Series. He had a top 10 run most of that night in the Camping World extravaganza. So now in a much better truck, I'm going to take Grant Enfinger here. I think that Kyle Busch is going to be coming in a little too hot after his win at Las Vegas or at Fontana, and he gets put in check. Excuse me.
Man, Zach's agreeing with me on that one.
They can agree with you. That's fine. I'll be right by myself. And in the Xfinity Series, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a JRM car as well. But I'm going to take Sam Mayer. This guy's inching closer and closer to victory lane. He, of course, got wrecked on the backstretch at Daytona while racing for the win. He was third or fourth last night, I believe, third or fourth at Auto Club. We record on Monday, so Sunday night at Auto Club. So I would imagine that, this is kind of due time. This is a track that JRM dominated last year, right?
Yeah.
Josh Berry's won like 2 of the last 3 there, I believe. He won both of the last 2 fall races. Ty Gibbs won in the spring. So I think that I think we see another young gun getting it done in Sam Mayer, and finally he goes to victory. Excuse me. In the Cup Series, I think we're going to see a lot of the same guys that are fast at Fontana be fast at Las Vegas, just because you're really not going back to the shop. So a lot of kind of what you've done for the West Coast scene is already set in, and usually if you hit it at Auto Club, you hit it at all 3. And to me, this driver, although he did not win at Las Vegas last year, he did look the best out of everyone. Thank you, Zach. You can see Sam Mayer getting a look. It's not like I'm out here pulling some random stuff. Like, I'm not like, oh, Jeffrey Earnhardt for the win. No shade to Jeffrey Earnhardt, but here's another comment as well from Ryan. But I'm taking this is painful, but the guy who I thought ran the best year all last season in the Cup Series, top 5 both races, the watermelon man himself, Ross Chastain. I think, here's the thing, right? When I made my predictions, folks, I really, to me, the RCR and Trackhouse were really had one of two options. Okay, they were either gonna build on the things they built on last year, because both teams had a pretty good 2022 with the next gen, and either last year was a fluke or last year was legit. So far, they've proven to be legit. Yeah, man, Chastain was top 5. A lot of the spring race was right there competing with Logano.
That's a comment after your own heart there, Zach.
No, it's not. Zach is not after my own heart. Oh man, listen, I'll tell you what. I don't know what I would do for Riley Herbst one. I don't know. I might pull a Mike Daffner and move myself and be away from the show. Here's the thing. I feel like people think I don't dislike Riley Herbst. He seems like a nice-ish guy, right? I mean, he's not my favorite guy, but I mean, he's not a terrible person, I'm sure. But come on, man. Are you telling me he belongs in that 98 Xfinity car? Oh man.
He didn't belong in the 15 Cup car, but he was there.
There's a place for Riley Herbst in NASCAR somewhere. He can drive a car in ARCA, right? And just be a rich ARCA kid. And that can be the line. But come on, man. I don't know. I don't want to get too caught up in a tizzy with Riley Herbst. But yeah, so to reconfirm my picks, I'm taking Grant Enfinger, I'm taking Sam Mayer, and I'm taking one Ross Chastain. Maybe we can convince old Mike Daffner and Justin to put their comments out on the social medias for everybody else to rip them to shreds. Because, listen, Dan and I are right because we were the ones that showed up and recorded the episode.
That's right.
Anyway, so
you got the deaf leading the blind, and I'm not sure which one's deaf or blind.
Actually, if you think about it, I'm both deaf and blind because I'm inching up further and further because I'm not wearing my glasses because I'm not blind, but I'm not visually advanced, I'd say. But I can spot a good race car without my glasses on, that's for sure. But anyways, Dan, it is time we go ahead and wind it down and make sure, of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Runnin on Scuffs. And of course, check out our website with all of our fantastic work up there. I know Dan did some off-season content that, as we're getting new into the year, it'll be ready for us. And I know, I had an article about John Andretti. As the year gets going on, we're going to have more and more great stuff. But Dan, I leave it to you to go ahead and give a sign-off. Steal any part of Justin's or anybody else's you want, just not mine.
Just not yours. All right. So no signature.
No, mine's my own. It's like the Chick-fil-A sauce.
You can't beat it. No, I just want to say, as always, thanks for tuning in, guys. We always love seeing you support us and the comments in the section. I have to give it to Ryan Hill. I don't think he's missed a minute of an episode at all. Every time I'm on here, I see him popping up, commenting. I think he's watched more of the shows than I have, and I have watched every one of them. So, no, thank you, like always, for tuning in and watching us and checking us out. Like Zach said, check out the website, check out the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Also, my Twitter name is also down here usually.
It is down there. We can get it here.
You can follow me on there. Don't forget to play NASCAR Fantasy Live if you haven't already. Sign up, join the league, and we'll see who can duke it out to the end of the season. But I always want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week. Zach, I turn it over to you.
I mean, another week for me to eat crow. I'm sure this is what all of you crazy scuff heads are all about, right? I don't know if that's we really should name our audience and our fans.
Well, for the Scuffs, they got to be something.
I mean, scuff heads ain't bad.
I can do that.
Listen, Justin has given us the total keys to the company, right? So we can do whatever we want. What Justin doesn't know won't hurt him.
Yeah,
it's not like this is recorded or live on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram. But what
the Scuffies? Thomas Cox commenting with the Scuffies. I like it.
Yeah, there we go, Thomas.
Awards, isn't it? Don't we give out the Scuffies, the Scuffy Awards?
Yeah, that is the awards. But those are he's felt it differently.
That is true.
What if we did it like with a Z instead, like Scuffies, Scuffiez, like it's like a tribute to me because we know we're all fans of me.
We'll give it a week. You guys comment down at the bottom. Give us your thoughts on what we should call our fans. You guys, the ones tuning in every week, supporting us. What do you want us to call you guys?
Maybe.
So we need something for our fans.
Yeah, maybe we can get Justin to make it into some merch. If you guys push hard enough.
The Scuffers.
The Scuffers. What? Yeah, the Scuffers and the Scuffettes. Maybe like Scuffers are our male listeners and the Scuffettes are our female listeners.
There we go. Yeah, but no, we'll get you guys comments and we'll see. If you like someone else's suggestion, heart it. Do whatever reaction emoji you prefer. A Scuff head sounds super metal. Yeah, pretty much. That could be a new rock band.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the image you guys want, right? We've already made our own, I guess. So, but anyways, with that being said, of course, I want to shout out my parents for supporting my NASCAR addiction. Of course, Dan referenced it. Papa Bell did make a cameo in the comments section. Probably went to sleep by now. It's the FedEx. The grind he lives is one that's not for the weak. I like the Scuffers too. I like this too. Y'all start messaging Justin on the old Facebook and be like, we want Scuffers merch. Right. Send him your bank accounts and proof you have money. And I'm kidding. Please don't do that. But shouts out to my parents for supporting my NASCAR addiction. It's off to the side here, but there are plenty of diecasts that they or I have financially invested in. And, shouts out to them for making all of this happen every week. And, really, when I talk about my parents, I really talk about from the start, right? Like promoting NASCAR within our household after I found it, taking me to the racetrack, making sure that we paid for all the most ridiculous cable packages to have NASCAR, and back when we had the DirecTV days. But shouts out to our parents and shouts out to all of you, right? It was a different episode, which is the old Dan and I, but if you like it better, also tell Justin you like it better, and Justin can see himself off the show.
Yeah.
A and B conversations.
Everything's ebb and flow. So, if you guys prefer just the two of us, we can make that happen. If you unfortunately do like Zach and Justin and Mike and myself, all four of us on there, that's fine too. But it's
if you want the show without me though. If you want the show without me, though, you've got real problems.
We're in it. We're packaged.
Dan and I are must. It's either Dan and I, and we can add people in, or just
the show just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
for real. It's either us or nothing.
Ironically, I'm the only person now who's shooting 100% attendance for the show, I believe.
Yeah.
So look at me, the one who shows up.
Oh, Papa Bell's still awake. He says the Dan and Zach show. Thumbs up. He likes it.
Dad actually, Dan and I are best more of like a Saturday night in the SNL time slot.
Yeah.
On the backmarker cable network of your choosing that lets you say and think whatever you want.
That's right.
I mean,
the sweet life of Zach and Danny.
My goodness.
Now you're bringing Disney into this, Zach.
My goodness. Listen, if I lived in a hotel, in the Tipton Hotel, it would be painted NASCAR blue. This wall behind me.
I have no problem with it.
But anyways, we've spent enough time. Check us out again on the socials. We will take this comment down so you can see Dan's, I believe. And mine is at ZRBELL98 on all of them. wherever you want to find me, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Obviously, you guys know my Facebook. It's sharing stuff from Runnin on Scuffs. And my Snapchat, if for some reason you want to message me there. However you feel like you need to contact me, it's fine.
DMs as clean or as dirty as you prefer. Is what
I prefer mine to look like the slide job that old Kyle Larson used on Kyle Busch in the 2018 Chicagoland race. Slide job in his redneck and Dale Jr. as way you can. Ladies, if you're listening, it's slide SLIDEJAWB winky face emoji at ZRBELL98. This is what happens when Dan and Zach go after hours.
That's right. This is
only a preview. This is
Running on Scuffs after dark, folks.
So I know we've talked about it getting it going on Saturdays. Hopefully we can get it going this Saturday, possibly. We can do some streaming. You know, Justin will probably be hosting. Unless you guys choose us, then I'll host.
Yeah, hey, but
you know, you hear all my unfiltered thoughts about Dan, Justin, Mike, and Riley Herbst all in one place. Promise you, I do like Riley Herbst more than one of those three people I just mentioned. Tune in to find out. Other than that, folks, have a great night, and we will see you all in the next one. Peace.